My name is Alara Vance, and 3 years ago, my sister forged my signature to pawn our grandmother's Steinway concert grand for $8,000. She needed to pay off her credit card debt. What she didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that I had been quietly signed for a solo debut at Carnegie Hall that would have been broadcast live to 2 million people. That piano wasn't just an inheritance. It was my only chance. That Steinway wasn't just furniture. It was a Model D concert grand, our family's crown jewel, and the only instrument I'd ever played. My sister saw a quick fix for her debt. I lost the key to my entire future. This is the story of how a single act of betrayal unraveled a lifetime of secret work, and how I discovered that sometimes, the person who silences your dream is the one who lives in your own house. To understand how a piano could destroy a family, you need to understand the two sisters who inherited it. I was the quiet one, the one who spoke through keys and chords. My sister Jennifer was 3 years older, the one who spoke through credit cards and charm. We grew up in a split-level house in Akron, Ohio. Our parents, Robert and Linda Vance, were practical people. Dad was an engineer at Goodyear. Mom taught high school chemistry. They believed in two things: hard work and sensible choices. Art was a hobby, not a path. Music was background noise. Our grandmother, Eleanor, was different. She lived in an old Victorian in Cleveland Heights, and in her parlor sat the Steinway. A Model D concert grand, ebony polish, bought new in 1963, the year she played as a soloist with the Cleveland Orchestra. It wasn't just a piano, it was a member of the family. Jennifer and I were named in her will as equal co-owners of the instrument. The condition was simple: we had to agree on its disposition. If we couldn't, it would stay in trust until we did. Grandma knew what she was doing. She was forcing us to talk. But here's the thing about shared inheritance. No heir has the legal right to sell jointly owned property without the other's approval. That's the law. What the law doesn't account for is a forged signature. I need to pause here. If you've ever had a family member make a decision that changed your life without your consent, type "mine" in the comments. Let's see how many of us there are. Now back to the piano. For me, it was everything. From age 6, I'd spend weekends at Grandma's. She'd teach me, not just notes, but how to listen, how to feel the vibration of the strings in the floorboards. It was our secret language. My parents thought I was just a diligent granddaughter. They had no idea what was being built in that parlor. Jennifer hated those visits. She'd roll her eyes, stay home, go to the mall with friends. The piano was old, it was dusty, it took up too much space. She saw an asset, I saw a soul. When Grandma passed during my sophomore year of college, the piano came to me in spirit, but physically it stayed in her house, which we rented out. The agreement was I could access it anytime. I was studying business at Ohio State because that's what my parents paid for. But every Friday, I'd drive the 2 hours to Cleveland, let myself into the quiet, empty house, and I'd play for 4, 5, 6 hours straight. That was my real education. Jennifer was in New York by then, working in fashion PR. Her life was Instagram perfect. Her debt, I'd learn later, was not. She'd maxed out 3 credit cards, over $50,000, chasing a lifestyle that was always one step ahead of her salary. Meanwhile, I was hiding a second life. Through a former teacher of Grandma's, I'd connected with a retired Juilliard professor named Arthur Lynn. He heard me play once during a visit and took me on as a private, unofficial student. He said I had a rare touch, but my technique was untrained. For 2 years, he worked with me in secret. He was the one who told me about the Carnegie Hall National Artist Discovery Series. It's not an open audition. You have to be nominated by a recognized master teacher. Arthur submitted my name and a private recording we made on that Steinway. I didn't tell a soul, not my parents, not my roommate, certainly not Jennifer. I was terrified of the pressure of their practical questions. What's the point? How does this help your degree? Then, in April, the letter came. Not an email, a heavy cream envelope addressed to me at the Cleveland house. I sat on the floor of the dusty parlor and read it 3 times. I had been selected as one of 12 young artists for a debut recital in Carnegie Hall's Weil Recital Hall. The performance would be 9 months later, in January. It would be recorded and broadcast by a classical radio network with a potential audience of 2 million. My hands shook. This was the dream, the exact dream Grandma had for me. The letter outlined the next steps: formal acceptance, scheduling of rehearsals, and a requirement that I perform on a concert-grade instrument for the event. I had the instrument. I had the date. I had the secret. I drove back to Columbus floating. For the first time, I felt my two lives might actually touch. I decided I would tell my parents after my finals, once I had a plan. I'd show them the letter, explain Arthur's mentorship, prove this wasn't a hobby. I never got the chance. Because while I was dreaming of Carnegie Hall, Jennifer was staring at a fourth-quarter credit card statement. The rent on her Brooklyn apartment had gone up. Her job was on thin ice. And she remembered the one asset she owned. Half of that wasn't doing anything but collecting dust in Ohio. She called me in May. Her voice was sweet, sisterly. She asked about school, about my summer plans. Then she circled it. Have you thought about what we should do with Grandma's piano? It's just sitting there. We could sell it, split the money. You could put a down payment on a car. My blood went cold. Jen, we can't sell it. It's not just money. Alara, be realistic. It's a piece of furniture, a really heavy one. I could really use the cash. I panicked. I gave her a version of the truth. I need it, for my senior project. I'm doing a historical study on instrument preservation. I need to document it all summer. It was a terrible lie, but it was all I had. She was quiet. Fine, whatever, we'll talk later. I thought I'd bought time. What I'd actually done was shown her my weak spot. I'd revealed that the piano mattered to me, which meant taking it would hurt. Now, let me back up for a crucial detail. The piano was in a house we owned together. The title and insurance papers were in a safe deposit box at a bank in Cleveland. We both had keys. We both had to be present to remove anything, or we needed a notarized authorization from the other. Jennifer didn't have my authorization, but she did have a sample of my signature from an old birthday card, a desperate need for cash, and a pawnshop in Queens that asked 0 questions. In early July, she flew to Cleveland. She told our parents she was visiting friends. She went to the bank, and here, where the forgery happened. She presented a document stating that I, Alara Vance, authorized my sister, Jennifer Vance, to act as my sole agent in the removal and appraisal of the contents of safe deposit box number 418. She'd practiced my signature. The bank teller, seeing 2 sisters with the same last name, didn't question it. She took the insurance appraisal from 1998, which valued the piano at $85,000. She called a moving company, had the Steinway crated and shipped to New York. She told the movers it was being sold to a collector. The pawnbroker in Queens took one look at the Steinway, saw a distressed woman in need of fast money, and offered her $8,000 in cash. $8,000 for an instrument whose true value was 10 times that. She took the deal. I didn't know any of this. I was in Columbus, working a summer internship, counting down the days until I could drive back to Cleveland and practice the program for Carnegie Hall. Chopin's Ballade No. 1 in G minor, the piece Grandma played for her debut. I called the house manager in late July to schedule my next visit. He sounded confused. Miss Vance, the piano is gone. Your sister arranged for it to be moved weeks ago. The floor dropped out from under me. I called Jennifer. It went straight to voicemail. I texted. No response. I called my parents. My dad answered, annoyed. Your sister said you 2 agreed to put it in storage. She handled it. Don't make a drama, Alara. They believed her. Of course they did. Jennifer handled things. I made drama. I took the next day off work and drove to Cleveland. The parlor was empty, just a rectangle of faded hardwood floor where the Steinway had lived for 55 years. The silence in that room was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. I called Arthur Lynn, sobbing. I told him the piano was gone. He was silent for a long time. Then he said, the Carnegie Hall people require you to confirm your instrument within 30 days. Do you have another concert grand? I didn't. I had nothing. This was more than a stolen inheritance. This was a sabotaged future. And the person who did it was on a beach in the Hamptons, posting photos with a cocktail, $8,000 lighter in debt, and utterly clueless that she hadn't just sold a piano. She had sold my only shot. I sat on that bare floor in Cleveland for an hour, maybe 2. The shock was a physical weight. Then it hardened into something else, a cold, clear fury. Jennifer hadn't just stolen a piano. She had stolen the proof. The proof I needed for Carnegie Hall, the proof of my entire secret life. And I had 29 days to get it back, or the debut would be offered to someone else. I drove back to Columbus in a trance. I didn't cry, I planned. First, I called Arthur Lynn back. His voice was grave. The requirement is non-negotiable, Ilera. You must provide documentation of access to a suitable instrument. A Steinway Model D, a Fazioli, a Bersendorfer, they don't lend them out. You have to own it or have guaranteed long-term access. Can I rent one? Not for this. The broadcast insurance, the liability. It has to be your instrument. It's in the contract you signed. I hadn't signed it yet. The formal acceptance packet was sitting on my desk, unopened. I ripped it open. Page 4, Clause 12. Artist warrants they have sole and uninterrupted access to a concert grand piano of professional quality for all rehearsals and the performance. Arthur was right. I called Jennifer again. This time she answered. Ilera, hey, look, I'm sorry I didn't tell you. It was a spur-of-the-moment thing. We got a great offer. Where is it, Jen? It's in storage, with a dealer. Which dealer? What's the name? Why does it matter? You got your half of the money. I mailed you a check. $4,000. You're welcome, by the way. A check I'd never received. A check for $4,000 for half of our grandmother's soul. The math hit me. She'd only gotten $8,000. The pawnbroker had seen her coming from a mile away. Jennifer, listen to me. This isn't about money. I need that piano back. It's not yours to sell. You forged my signature. That's fraud. Her voice turned icy. Don't be dramatic. You would have never agreed. This was for the best. You need to grow up and stop living in grandma's fantasy. She hung up. I stared at my phone. That was the moment I understood this wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. She knew exactly what she was taking from me. She just didn't care. Okay, I need to pause here. If you've ever had someone dismiss your dream as a fantasy, type "seen" in the comments. Let's see how many dreams have been silenced by someone else's practicality. Now I had two battles to fight. 1, get the piano back. 2, keep Carnegie Hall from giving my spot away. I started with the law. I found a lawyer in Cleveland who specialized in inheritance and fraud. Her name was Miranda Cruz. I sat in her office the next day, laid out the whole story, the co-ownership, the will, the forgery. She listened, took notes, then leaned forward. The forgery is your leverage, it's a felony, but family fraud cases are messy. The police might see it as a civil dispute. Your first step is to establish the chain of custody. We need to find the piano. She drafted a cease and desist letter to Jennifer, demanding the immediate return of the instrument and full accounting of the sale. She also told me to file a police report for the forged document in Cleveland. It creates a paper trail. It shows you're serious. I filed the report that afternoon. The detective was sympathetic but blunt. We'll look into the forgery at the bank, but the piano itself, if it's in New York now, that's out of our jurisdiction. You need to find it first. Finding it, that was the next problem. I had the name of the moving company from the house manager. I called them, pretended to be Jennifer confirming delivery details. The clerk was helpful. Yes, we delivered the crated piano to the address of Empire Pawn and Jewelry in Queens on July 12th. Empire Pawn and Jewelry, I had a name. I booked the cheapest red-eye flight to New York I could find. Before I left, I did one more thing. I wrote an email to the coordinator at Carnegie Hall. I didn't tell them the piano was stolen. I said there was a temporary issue with the storage facility for my instrument, and I was securing alternative arrangements. I asked for a brief extension on the instrument confirmation deadline. I was buying time with a lie, just like Jennifer had. The reply came an hour later. We can extend by 2 weeks, but no further. Please confirm by August 31st. 2 weeks, that was all the time I had bought. I landed in New York at 6 a.m. and took the subway straight to Queens. Empire Pawn was exactly what you'd imagine. Barred windows, neon signs, a bell that jingled too cheerfully when I walked in. A man in his 50s with tired eyes looked up from behind a glass counter full of watches. Help you. I'm looking for information about a piano, a Steinway concert grand. It was brought in here in July. He stared at me. We don't get many of those. Who are you? My family sold it. there's been a mistake. I need to buy it back." He sighed like he'd heard this story before. "Lady, that thing was here for maybe 48 hours. Beautiful instrument, way too nice for this place. We gave the girl a loan." "A loan? You didn't buy it?" "It was a pawn, $8,000 loan. 60-day term, she didn't come back, we own it now." My heart sank. "So where is it?" "We sold it last week." The room tilted. Sold, it was gone again. "Who did you sell it to?" "Can't give out client information. Privacy." "Please, this is my inheritance. My sister pawned it without my permission. It was forged." I was begging now. He looked at me, really looked at me, saw the desperation. He glanced around the empty shop, then lowered his voice. "Look, I shouldn't do this, but the guy who bought it, he's a regular, a dealer, buys undervalued assets, flips them. He didn't know what he had either. He just saw a brand name and a low price. He paid us $12,000. He probably thinks he can get 30, 40 for it if he cleans it up." "What's his name?" "I can't, but I can tell you he mentioned he was driving it up to a warehouse in Hudson. He deals in bulk. Furniture, art, weird stuff. Said he had a buyer lined up in Boston for a project." A warehouse in Hudson. A project in Boston. It was nothing and everything. I thanked him, left the shop, and stood on the sidewalk in the Queen's sun. The trail was going cold. The piano was in the back of a truck, heading to a warehouse, destined to be a decoration in some rich person's loft. A conversation piece, not an instrument. I called Arthur, my voice breaking. "It's gone. It's been sold again. I have no idea where it is." He was quiet for a long time. "There is another way," he said slowly, "but you won't like it." "Tell me." "You go to Carnegie Hall. You explain the situation. The full situation. You tell them about the theft, the forgery. You show them the police report. You ask for an exception to use one of their house pianos for the performance." They said no exceptions. They've never heard this story before. The worst they can say is no, but you have to be ready for the consequence. "What consequence?" "That once you tell them, your secret is out. Your parents, Jennifer, everyone will know. There's no going back to your double life. You will have to own who you are fully in public before you're ready." I got on the subway back to Manhattan. I rode it all the way to 57th Street. I walked up to Carnegie Hall, this massive, beautiful, terrifying building. I stood across the street and just looked at it. I could see the stage door. I could see the marquee. My name wasn't on it. It might never be. I needed help, real help. And there was only one person left to ask, the person I was most afraid to tell. I called my father. He answered on the second ring. "Alara, everything okay?" "Dad, I'm in New York. I need to tell you something. And I need you to listen without giving me practical advice just for 5 minutes." A pause. "Okay, I'm listening." And I told him everything, the lessons with Arthur, the nomination, the Carnegie Hall debut, the broadcast, the piano being the required instrument, Jennifer pawning it, the forgery, the police report, the pawn shop, the dealer, the warehouse in Hudson, the 2-week deadline. The silence on the other end was absolute. I could hear his breathing. "Dad." "Say that again, the Carnegie Hall part." I was selected to play a solo recital at Carnegie Hall in January. It's a huge deal. It was going to be broadcast. Jennifer sold the piano, I need to do it. Another long silence. Then not anger, not practicality, but a quiet, devastated realization. Your grandmother she would have, he stopped. And Jennifer knew. She knew the piano was important to me. She didn't know about Carnegie Hall, but she knew it would hurt me. My father, the engineer, the problem solver, finally spoke. "Where are you right now?" "Outside Carnegie Hall." "Stay there, I'm booking a flight. I'll be there tonight. Do not talk to your mother yet. Do not talk to Jennifer. We are going to fix this." He hung up. I slid down the wall of a building and sat on the sidewalk, people streaming past me. My father was coming. For the first time in this nightmare, I wasn't alone. He landed at LaGuardia at 9 p.m. We met at a diner near his hotel. He looked older, tired. He didn't hug me. He sat down, ordered 2 coffees, and said, "Show me the paperwork." I laid it all out on the Formica table. the Carnegie Hall letter, the contract, the police report copy, the notes from the pawn shop. He read every word, his glasses low on his nose. When he finished, he took off his glasses and rubbed his eyes. "All right," he said. "The legal path with Miranda Cruz is good, but it's too slow. The piano is a physical object. We find the physical object. We have the name of the city, Hudson. We have the buyer's profile, a bulk dealer who flips assets. That's a small world. How do we find him?" Your generation forgets about the phone book. I'm going to call every storage facility, every warehouse manager in Hudson. I'm going to describe the piano. Someone will have seen it. And if that doesn't work? Then, he said, looking at me with an expression I'd never seen before, a mix of guilt and determination. Then we go to Carnegie Hall together, and I tell them the story myself. I tell them I failed to protect my daughter's dream, and I beg them for a chance to make it right. My eyes filled with tears, not because of the plan, but because of the word. Daughter, he saw me. Finally, he saw me. We drove up to Hudson the next morning in a rented car. It's a small town, known for antique shops and warehouses. My dad had a list of 15 places. We started at the biggest storage facility. He had a photo of the Steinway on his phone from Grandma's house. He talked to managers, security guards, forklift drivers. He didn't say it was stolen. He said it was a family heirloom, mistakenly sold, and we were trying to buy it back. His engineer's calm authority opened doors that would have slammed shut for me. At the fourth place, a dusty warehouse on the edge of town, the foreman squinted at the photo. "Yeah, I seen that. Came in on a truck from the city last week. Huge crate. Guy said it was for a hotel lobby in Boston." "Where is it now?" my dad asked, his voice steady. "Shipped out yesterday, sorry." My heart plummeted again, but my dad didn't flinch. "Who shipped it? What company?" "Prestige Fine Art Logistics. They're based in Jersey, handle high-end stuff." We were back in the car, calling Prestige Logistics. They were professional and immovable. Client confidentiality. Without a police order or a court subpoena, they would not disclose the destination. We were stuck. The piano was in a truck, heading to a hotel lobby in Boston to be background furniture. The clock was ticking. My dad looked at me, his jaw set. "Option 2, he said. The next morning, we walked into the Carnegie Hall administrative offices. We asked for the coordinator of the National Artist Discovery Series. A young assistant led us to a small, elegant office. A woman named Ms. Almeida sat behind the desk. She remembered my email. "Elira, you said you were securing alternative arrangements." I took a deep breath, and with my father sitting silently beside me, I told the whole story, from the beginning, the secret lessons, the nomination, the inheritance, the forgery, the pawn shop, the warehouse, the truck to Boston. I showed her the police report. I showed her the cease and desist letter from my lawyer. I showed her the photo of the empty space on the floor. When I finished, the room was quiet. Ms. Almeida steepled her fingers. "This is highly unusual. The instrument requirement is for quality control and insurance. We've never made an exception." My father leaned forward. "Ms. Almeida, my mother played that piano on the stage in 1963. My daughter earned her place here. The only thing standing between her and that stage is a criminal act. I am asking you, not as an administrator, but as someone who loves music, to help us find a solution." She looked from my father's earnest face to mine. She stood up. "Wait here." She was gone for 20 minutes, the longest 20 minutes of my life. When she returned, she had an older man with her, with kind eyes and a cardigan. "This is Mr. Henderson. He's the head of piano maintenance for Carnegie Hall. I've explained the situation." Mr. Henderson looked at me. "You were to perform the Chopin G minor ballade." "Yes, sir." "On a Steinway D." "Yes." He nodded slowly. "We have 3 Steinway Ds backstage. They are for the symphony for the big halls. We do not lend them for individual artist series. The policy is ironclad." He paused. "However, there is a 4th, it's older. It's used for rehearsals, for tuning practice. It's not as bright as the others, but it has a beautiful, warm tone. It is, technically, Carnegie Hall property." My breath caught. Ms. Almeida spoke. "If we were to allow you to use that instrument, it would be under the strictest conditions. intensive vetting by Mr. Henderson, additional insurance waivers, and it would be a one-time-only accommodation due to the extraordinary circumstances. You would be the first. It's possible, I whispered. It is possible, Mr. Henderson said. But you must play for me, right now, on that piano. I must hear if you are worthy of the exception, and I must hear if the piano is worthy of you. This was it, the backstage audition I never saw coming. No prepared piece, just the truth of my hands after the worst month of my life. My father squeezed my shoulder. I followed Mr. Henderson through the labyrinth of Carnegie Hall, past practice rooms, down a freight elevator into a cavernous backstage area. And there, under a single work light, sat a beautiful, slightly worn Steinway Model D. This is it, he said. Show me what your grandmother taught you. I sat on the bench. The keys felt different. The room felt different. But the need in me was the same. I placed my hands on the keys, closed my eyes, and I didn't play the Chopin. I played the first piece Grandma ever taught me, a simple Bach prelude. The notes filled the empty backstage, clear and honest. When I finished, Mr. Henderson was smiling. The piano approves, he said, and so do I. We will make it work. I walked out of that room, my father waiting in the hall, and I nodded. We had a piano. We had a chance. But as Ms. Almeida drew up the new paperwork, she said one more thing. There is a condition from the broadcast network. They love the story. The secret pianist, the stolen inheritance, the fight to perform. They want to include it in the broadcast introduction. They want to interview you and your father. And they request that you make a good faith effort to locate the original piano for the narrative. The story was going public. My secret was over. And they wanted me to find the very thing that had been taken from me, not to play it, but to complete the tale for television. We had cleared one impossible hurdle. But now, the search for Grandma Steinway was no longer just for me. It was for the world. And somewhere in a hotel lobby in Boston, it was waiting, silent, while the countdown to my debut continued. So the race was on, but now with a camera crew waiting. We had a piano to play and a piano to find. And the moment my mother found out, not from us, but from a producer's email asking for an interview, our family war went from cold to nuclear. My dad and I flew back to Ohio. We had 2 weeks before I needed to move to New York for intensive rehearsals. We walked into our house, and my mother was standing in the kitchen, her phone in her hand, face pale with fury. Robert, explain this. She shoved the phone at him. It was the email from the broadcast producer, outlining the compelling family narrative they wanted to explore. My father didn't flinch. Linda, sit down, we need to talk. Talk? You took our daughter to New York behind my back. You're involving her in some television spectacle about a piano. And Jennifer, the producer mentioned fraud allegations. I stepped forward. Mom, it's not a spectacle, it's the truth. Jennifer committed fraud, she stole from me, and she stole something that was going to change my life. Change your life? Alara, you're a business major. Since when is your life about a piano? This is your grandmother's fantasy, and you're dragging this family through the mud to live it. That's when I saw it, the real fracture. It wasn't that she didn't believe me. It was that she was terrified of what believing me would mean. It would mean her perfect, charismatic firstborn was a criminal. It would mean she'd missed the real talent in her own house for 22 years. It was easier to call it a fantasy. My father spoke, his voice low and final. Linda, I heard her play at Carnegie Hall. I saw the letter. I've seen the police report. This is real. Jennifer is in serious trouble, and you need to decide right now which daughter you're going to stand with while we fix it. She stared at him, then at me, and without a word she walked out of the room. We heard the car start and drive away. She went to Jennifer. The battle lines were drawn. Now the search for the piano became a forensic operation. My lawyer Miranda used the police report to subpoena Prestige Logistics. They finally coughed up the destination, not a hotel in Boston, but a private event space called the Foundry in Boston's Seaport District. The piano had been purchased as a statement piece for their main hall. My dad and I drove to Boston. The Foundry was all exposed brick and industrial chic. And there, on a low platform under dramatic spotlights, was Grandma Steinway. My breath caught. It looked beautiful. But as I got closer, my stomach dropped. Someone had distressed it. sanded parts of the ebony finish to make it look shabby chic. They replaced the original brass pedals with matte black ones. It was a prop. A beautiful, ruined prop. The manager was proud. Yeah, we got it for a steal. 40,000. It's the centerpiece of our winter gallery show. 40,000. From 8,000 to 12 to 40. And it was mutilated. I explained the situation, showed him the legal documents. His face fell. We bought it in good faith. We have a bill of sale. From a dealer who didn't have clear title, my dad said. This is stolen property. We can do this with lawyers and police, or you can let us buy it back at your cost, and we all walk away clean. It was a bluff. We didn't have $40,000. But Miranda had told us about a legal concept called replevin. We could potentially get a court order to seize it, but that would take months. The manager panicked. He didn't want the scandal. I need to call the owner. While he stepped away, I sat at the piano. I lifted the fallboard. The keys were still perfect. I touched middle C. The tone was still there, pure and deep beneath the cosmetic damage. I played a single scale. The sound filled the cavernous room. A janitor stopped mopping to listen. The manager came back. The owner says 35. That's his bottom line. He eats the loss for the refinishing. We didn't have 35,000. My dad's face was grim. We left, defeated again. On the drive back, my phone blew up. It was Jennifer. Dozens of texts, then calls. How dare you? Mom told me everything. You're trying to ruin me. I'll tell them you're lying. I'll say you authorized it. Then a different tone. Elara, please don't do this. I'll pay you back. I'll get the money. Don't go public with this. Then from my mother, call off the lawyers. This is destroying our family. We can handle this privately. I showed my dad. He pulled over. This is the pressure campaign, he said. They want you to fold, to choose family peace over justice. What do you want to do? I thought about the sanded finish on the piano. I thought about the Carnegie Hall backstage, the feel of those keys. I want to play my concert, and I want the truth to be public, not to hurt her, but so she can't hide from it anymore. He nodded. Then that's what we do. But the universe had one more twist, a huge one. When we got home, there was a certified letter from Miranda Cruz. It was a copy of a document she'd subpoenaed from the bank. It wasn't just the forged authorization Jennifer had used. The bank had security footage from that day. And in the footage, clear as day, you could see Jennifer at the counter. And standing right beside her, looking over her shoulder, was our mother. My dad read the letter, then sat down heavily at the kitchen table. She knew, he whispered. Your mother knew about the forgery before it even happened. The ground vanished beneath me. My mother hadn't just taken Jennifer's side after the fact. She'd been an accomplice. She'd watched Jennifer sign my name. She said nothing. The betrayal was now a conspiracy. I have to stop here. If you've ever discovered a lie was bigger than you imagined, that more people were in on it, type layers in the comments. Because this was the moment I realized the silence in my family wasn't passive. It was collaborative. Confronting my mother was the hardest thing I've ever done. We sat her down. My dad played the stills from the security footage on his laptop. She didn't cry. She didn't deny it. She just deflated. She was drowning, my mother said, her voice empty. The debt collectors were calling her job. She was going to be fired. She came to me sobbing. She said you'd never agree to sell the piano, that you were sentimental and impractical. She said she just needed a loan, that she'd buy it back in 60 days. She showed me the paperwork from the pawn shop. It said loan. I thought we were helping her get back on her feet. I thought you'd understand once she paid you your share. You watched her forge my signature, I said, the words like glass in my throat. I told her not to, but she said you'd given verbal permission over the phone and you'd just forgotten to sign. I wanted to believe her. She's my daughter. I chose to believe her. There it was, the core of it. She had chosen, actively. You have to call the police, my dad said, his voice hollow. You have to correct your statement. You were a witness to a crime. She looked at him, terrified. I can't, they'll charge her, they'll charge me. Yes, he said, they might. The next 48 hours were a hellscape. My mother hired her own lawyer. Jennifer's lawyer contacted Miranda, offering a settlement. They would pay me the fair market value of the piano, $85,000, if I dropped the fraud complaint and signed an NDA. They were trying to monetize my silence, to turn Grandma's piano into a transaction again. I refused, publicly. Through Miranda, I sent a counteroffer. Jennifer would plead guilty to the forgery charge in a way that allowed for restitution and probation. She would participate in the documentary, giving a full on-camera apology. And she and my mother would pay together to restore the Steinway to its original condition, whatever the cost. The response was a single line from Jennifer's lawyer: "My client will not be participating in a public shamming." So we went to war, for real. Miranda filed the new evidence with the police. The case was upgraded. A detective from New York contacted me. The pawnbroker had given a statement about Jennifer's nervous demeanor. The district attorney was now considering charges. The media got wind, not just the Arts Network but local news. Carnegie Hall debut hinges on stolen family piano. Sister accused of forgery in inheritance feud. My phone rang with reporters. Jennifer deleted all her social media. My mother stopped answering her phone. And through it all, I had to practice. I moved to a sublet in New York, and for 6 hours a day, I lived in a rehearsal room at Carnegie Hall with the old Steinway D. Mr. Henderson became a mentor, a calm presence in the storm. The music was my only sanctuary. The angrier and more scared I got, the deeper I played. The Chopin Ballade is a story of struggle and triumph. I finally understood it. 2 weeks before the concert, the producer sat me down. "The narrative has changed," she said. "It's not just a search for a piano anymore, it's a family tragedy. We want to interview your parents separately, and we want to offer Jennifer a chance to tell her side on camera with no conditions." I was exhausted. "Do whatever you need to do." They did. They sent a camera crew to my parents' house in Ohio. My father agreed. My mother, on her lawyer's advice, refused. They tracked down Jennifer at her new job. She'd been fired from the PR firm. She slammed the door in their faces. But they got a shot of her, fleeing. It was all going to be in the broadcast. The pressure reached a breaking point. 3 days before the concert, my mother called me. She was crying, truly crying, for the first time. "I'm sorry, I am so sorry, Alara. I was wrong, about everything. About your music, about your sister, about who you are. I've been talking to a therapist. Your father, he's staying in a hotel. He says he can't look at me." I didn't know what to say. "Okay. I want to fix it. I'll do whatever you want. I'll talk to the police. I'll talk to the cameras. Just please, don't make me lose my whole family." It was the first real apology, and it came from a place of total ruin. I told her to get on a plane to New York, to come to the concert, to sit in the audience and listen to what her daughter could do, and then we would talk. The day before the debut, the legal situation froze. Jennifer's lawyer entered into negotiations with the DA. A deal was on the table: conditional discharge, restitution, community service. No jail time, but a permanent record. It hinged on her returning the proceeds of the crime. But she didn't have the $8,000 anymore. It was gone. Who paid it? My mother. She liquidated her retirement account to cover it. The restitution check was sent to me, $4,000, my half. I donated every cent to a charity that provides musical instruments to kids in foster care. And the piano, the foundry in Boston, spooked by the legal battle and the looming bad publicity, contacted us. They offered to sell it back for $25,000 just to be rid of the problem, a number we could almost reach. My father took out a personal loan. Arthur Lynn, my teacher, quietly started a fundraiser among his former students. We got the money. The Steinway was shipped to a restoration specialist in Manhattan. He said the damage was cosmetic. The soul of the instrument was intact. It would sing again. On the morning of my Carnegie Hall debut, I went to the restoration workshop. I stood before our family's piano, its finish still scarred, but its strings and soundboard whole. I didn't play it. I just placed my hand on the wood. That night, I would walk onto the stage of Weil Recital Hall. I would play on a different Steinway. My mother would be in the third row, alone. My father would be in the front row, next to Arthur. Jennifer would be nowhere. The cameras would be rolling. I had my piano back, but I would not play it tonight. I had my family in fragments, and I had no idea if the pieces could ever fit together again. The music I was about to play held every question, every hurt, every ounce of hope I had left. This was no longer about a stolen inheritance. This was about what you build from the wreckage. And as I walked out of the workshop, I knew the performance was just the beginning of the answer. The backstage of Carnegie Hall is a specific kind of quiet before a performance. Not silent, but hushed, like the whole building is holding its breath. I stood in the wings, in my simple black gown, listening to the murmur of the sold-out crowd. My mother was out there. My father was out there. And I was about to play a piece about loss and redemption for 2 million strangers, while my own family's story of loss and redemption played out in real time. The stage manager gave me a nod. I walked out. The lights were warm, the piano a dark island in the center. I sat, adjusted the bench, placed my hands in my lap. I looked out. I saw my father's proud, tense face. I saw my mother, her hands clasped under her chin. I saw Arthur Lynn, smiling. I saw the red recording light of the camera. Then I didn't see them anymore. I saw the music. Chopin's Ballade in G minor begins quietly, a question. My fingers found the keys. The sound of the hall's Steinway filled the space, different from Grandma, but true. And as I played, I wasn't thinking about forgery or pawnshops or lawsuits. I was thinking about the line of music from my grandmother to me to this moment. I played the anger of the empty parlor floor. I played the desperation of the Queen's sidewalk. I played the shattered trust in my mother's eyes. I played the steady, quiet belief in my father's voice saying, "We are going to fix this." The music built the stormy passages, the technical runs. My hands were steady. My heart was a drum. In the final, furious coda, where the piece races toward its conclusion, I gave it everything. Every ounce of fight I had learned over the last 6 months. The final chords rang out, stark and definitive. Then silence, a half-second of pure, vacuum silence. The applause was a wave. I stood, shaky and bowed. The lights were bright. I saw my father on his feet. I saw my mother crying but smiling through it. Arthur was nodding, a teacher's proud nod. The host came out for the broadcast interview. The lights got brighter. She asked me about the piece, about my training. Then she asked the question everyone was waiting for. This performance almost didn't happen because of the loss of your family's instrument. Can you tell us about that? I looked into the camera. I kept it simple. My grandmother's piano was my musical home. It was recently sold without my knowledge. It's been a difficult time, but being here tonight, on this stage, feels like coming home to a different kind of family, the family of music. It was graceful. It was true. It didn't burn the world down. It just let the truth sit there elegantly. After the show, backstage was chaos. Flowers, well-wishers, the producer buzzing about ratings. My father found me first. He hugged me, a real tight hug. "Your grandmother," he said, his voice thick, "she is so proud." That was all. Then my mother approached. She hovered, uncertain. I hugged her. She broke down, sobbing into my shoulder. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry," she whispered, over and over. "I know," I said. "We'll talk tomorrow." The documentary segment aired a month later. They used the footage of the empty parlor, the security stills from the bank, the shot of Jennifer fleeing the camera crew. They interviewed my father, who spoke with calm dignity about failure and support. They used my mother's refusal to be interviewed as a narrative beat, the silence speaking volumes. They ended on my performance, and my line about the family of music. The response was overwhelming, not just from the classical world, but from people who'd faced family betrayal. My inbox flooded with stories. The charity I donated the restitution to saw a spike in contributions. Offers came in: recording deals, agent representation, more concert dates. But the real consequences were at home. Jennifer took the plea deal. Conditional discharge, 500 hours of community service, mandatory financial counseling, a permanent note on her record. She never contacted me. She moved to Chicago, got a job under her married name. The last I heard from her was a legal document acknowledging the debt she owes me, which she is paying back at $50 a month. It will take her over 13 years. I think that's the point. My parents did not divorce, but they separated for 6 months. My mother went to therapy, seriously this time. My father moved back in, but things were different, quieter, more honest. They started coming to my concerts together, sitting in the back. And the piano, the restored Steinway, came home, not to Cleveland, but to my small apartment in New York. The restorer did miraculous work. The scars are faint, only visible if you know where to look. The sound is, if anything, richer, deeper. I play it every day. It is no longer a secret. It is my instrument. Now, here is the surprising detail, the one thing I never saw coming. About a year after the debut, I got an email from a woman in Boston. She was the events coordinator at the Foundry, the place that had bought and distressed the piano. She'd seen the documentary. She'd been laid off when the venue changed management after the bad publicity. She wrote, "I was the one who okayed the distressing of your piano. I thought it was just furniture. Hearing you play, hearing your story, I realized I was part of a racing history. I'm so sorry." I wrote back. I told her I understood. I told her we all make choices based on the information we have at the time. A week later, she wrote again. She'd gone back to school for arts conservation. She was learning how to preserve history, not erase it. That email changed something in me. It made the circle complete. The piano's journey from grandma's parlor to a pawn shop to a trendy event space and back to me had changed more than just my life. It had changed hers. I started thinking about legacy. Grandma's legacy wasn't just in my hands, it was in the piano itself. It had a story to tell that was bigger than my concert. So I made a decision. I partnered with the charity that gives instruments to kids. I don't just donate money now. Once a month, I take the Steinway to a community center in the Bronx. I play for kids who have never heard a live concert grand. I let them touch the keys. I tell them its story. I tell them my story. I tell them that sometimes beautiful things get scarred, but that doesn't mean their song is over. That is where the piano lives now. Not hidden, not as a shrine to my pain, but as a tool, a bridge. My relationship with my mother is a slow rebuild. Trust isn't a switch, it's 1,000 small actions. She calls every Sunday, she asks about my practice, she listens. Sometimes she cries, I let her. My father and I have a new language. We talk about music, about the engineering of a piano's soundboard. He comes to New York and helps me move the piano for the community workshops. He says it's the most important work he's ever done. As for me, I finished my business degree. The irony is perfect. I use it to run the nonprofit wing of my music career. I play concerts, I record. The Carnegie Hall debut was not the end of my story, it was the beginning. The girl who played in secret is gone. In her place is a woman who knows the cost of her dream and who knows that the dream was worth the cost. If you're waiting for a dramatic courtroom showdown with Jennifer or a tearful reunion where she begs forgiveness, that's not this story. Some fractures don't heal clean. Some silences last. I've made peace with that. My peace is not dependent on her remorse. My peace is in the music. It's in the kids' faces when they hear the Steinway sing. It's in the monthly check for $50, a reminder that actions have consequences that echo for years. It's in my mother's weekly call. It's in my father's quiet pride. The piano that was pawned for $8,000 to cover a credit card debt now gives something priceless to children who might never have found their own song otherwise. That is the revenge I never planned. That is the architecture of a life built from wreckage. So the next chapter is simple. I play, I teach, I remember. And every time I lift the fallboard on my grandmother's Steinway, I'm not just playing notes. I'm continuing a conversation that began long before I was born, in a parlor in Cleveland, and that will continue long after I'm gone, in a community center in the Bronx, in the hands of a child hearing their future for the very first time. The stolen debut didn't end my story. It gave me a better one. So what is an inheritance, really? Is it the object itself, or is it the responsibility that comes with it? The duty to carry its story forward, even when that story gets broken. My grandmother left me a piano. My sister left me a betrayal. And in the space between those two facts, I had to build a life. I learned that forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing what to do with the memory. I chose to turn the instrument of my heartbreak into an instrument of hope. The $8,000 pawn ticket didn't define the piano's value. The $40,000 price tag from a Boston dealer didn't define it either. Its value is measured every month in a community room in the Bronx, in the wide eyes of a 10-year-old who hears a chord and feels it in their bones for the first time. That is the value my grandmother intended. That is the legacy. If you take anything from this story, let it be this. The things meant for you cannot be permanently taken. They can be hidden, sold, forged away, but if they are truly yours, they have a way of circling back. Not always in the form you expect, but in the form you need. Your dream might be a piano. It might be a degree, a business, a piece of art, a relationship. And someone close to you might not see its worth. They might call it a fantasy. They might even try to sell it out from under you. Your job is not to convince them. Your job is to protect it, to fight for it, and then to share it so widely that its value becomes undeniable. I'm Alara Vance. I am a pianist. I am a businesswoman. I am my grandmother's heir. I am my father's daughter. I am my mother's slow reconciliation. I am my sister's living consequence. I am all of these things, and I play them all every day on 88 keys. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever fought to protect something precious, I'd love to hear about it. Tell me in the comments what your piano is. And if you want to see where this story goes next, how the legacy continues, make sure to subscribe. There are more songs to play and more stories to tell. Thank you for listening.